Okay, in this lesson, we are going to see how to add material and color to this lamp, make it look nice and woody, and then we're going to get a rendered drawing for it. And then either this tutorial or the next tutorial, if we have time, we're going to show how we can start to do light sources going out of the lamp, which is going to be relevant for our drawings. So this is the lamp that we had from last lesson, where we did the wave, we have the duck, and we have the 3 holes. And now this right now in Fusion, if we go to the bodies and we right click the bodies and press appearance, by default Fusion is going to make everything steel. It assumes you're an engineer, you're making something out of steel. Yep. So if you hover over here, we see steel satin, but we're not making something out of wood. Potentially your thing might have steel, you might want to add that material, but Fusion does have an appearance library where we can add stuff. Let's look over here. If we press Fusion appearances, we have a bunch of things. We have concrete, fabric, glass, liquid, metal, mirror. Let's go to wood, and there's 2 options of wood. You can either go, one version of wood is just going to have the pattern, and is going to stretch it out across the whole shape of the object. The other one is going to be solid wood. So we'll look at, if we'll go to wood solid, if we go here, and if we load this up, we have some options: finished, painted, stained, or unfinished. Let's assume we're going to have just unfinished wood, and we can click a type of wood. Our wood, mostly in Australia, probably pine, is similar to the wood that we want. So we're going to download this, press the download button, and we'll drag it up into here. And then if we drag that piece of wood over here, now once it loads, now that is made out of the wood. And because we chose 3D wood, what it does is the grains over here are very vertical, but over here it looks like the end of the piece of wood. This is going to make the wood look a lot more natural than just getting the same bitmap image and stretching it around the whole piece of wood. We can then do that to the rest. We can drag it over here and drag it here. And we also have the piece of wood at the bottom. And Fusion again tries to be smart. It tries to get the thinnest surfaces and make the thinnest surfaces the end piece of the wood. So we have this, and there's nothing else special with our lamp so far. We're going to save our design, save, and we'll go straight to the rendering. Go to design, render. So render's going to turn on like ray tracing technology and all that good stuff to make this into a 3D object and get reflections and all that stuff. So let's just do a standard render. We've put the item in here. Notice it's already starting to get a shadow. If we press the render button, we're going to load up the renderer. Now one thing I'm going to change is here we go. I'm just going to put some size here. We want 128 by 1024. We don't need it to be our final one because this is just a lesson. And we can do our cloud render. And then I'm going to press the render button. And so what Fusion does, if you're a student account, you get unlimited renders, but they do sometimes limit the amount of renders you can do per day because they don't want a student accidentally pressing 1,000 renders and clogging up their whole server. So you might have a limit of how many per day you can do for rendering. But what Fusion's doing now is it's sending the file off to the servers in Seattle where Autodesk is stored, probably, I don't know. And they're doing all that rendering on their high-tech computing, and then they're going to send it back to us. For the sake of this demonstration in the YouTube video, I'm going to pause the recording and I'll come back when it's done. So we've spent some time, it's been about 5 minutes, and if I click this button over here, I load up, we have the rendering that has been sent back. So if we go through here, this is our wooden lamp structure, and we see we're already getting some shadow detail from this because it uses some sort of ray tracing technology. That's pretty good. That's a good start for our lamp. But that over there is only worth a C, probably. That work there. Average. Average. What is the main purpose of a lamp? Yes. Does this make light? Not yet. So we're going to make light. So we'll go back to our design. So we need to add some sort of light strips in there to represent our LED lights. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is, for this purpose, I'm going to hide some of my bodies. All right, so this flat body over here, I'm going to put the LED light strips on here. All right. To do this, first I've got to make the LED light strips. I'm going to go to Sketch. I'm going to press this surface over here. We should start sketching. Now, you got to help me out here. Do we remember the size of the LED strips? How wide they are? Wide? Yeah, how wide are the LED strips? I think it was like 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters, okay. 8 millimeters, and well, I give you 50 centimeters, but let's just pretend for this case 140. Right, and we press finish, and then we're going to make this object over here. Sorry, this closed sketch. We're going to make it into a 3D object. What was the height of the LED lights? 0.9. Yeah, 0.9 of a millimeter. Now, when we are making this by default, we want to make it a new body. We don't want it to join because now that we've started assigning appearances, we don't want this thing to turn into a piece of wood. So we press OK. Now that's going to be our LED light strip. We can right-click it. We can right-click it, we can go to Appearance, and we'll look at that Appearance menu again. So if we look at this Appearance menu, well, we don't want to look at the wood anymore, but let's look at Miscellaneous, and Emissive is the one we want to go to this time. Do you know what emissive means? Emissive means it's emitting stuff, so that's what light basically is. We can put in light bulbs in here. We can do LEDs, different colors. We can do display screens, segment displays, OLED, LED. Let's just say we want to get a light bulb. Let's say we just want to do this over here. If we drag this over now, that over there is now an LED light. So let's see what happens now when we save this design. Save. Oh, sorry, we've got to unhide all our other bodies. Unhide, unhide. Save it again. We go to render. We pick our orientation we want. And if we render this, again, cloud render, we'll just get the server to do it, standard. So what do I have? So I have 16 max per request. I don't know if that's because I'm a teacher or a student account, but it does look like I have unlimited. So per request means how big a file size I can request. They determine it as worthy of 16 credits. I don't know what that means exactly. I think it's got to do with something like how much computing power it needs. So, because when I do custom, if I make this 1 million pixels, their servers will grind to a halt. So there is a limit to how much you can do for a student. Most of your things will be 1. There are things when you do like 3D or animation renderings where if you're doing 30 frames, each frame might cost 1. So that will be 30 credits. So you might have to do it in smaller segments. I think that's also why they limit it in this sense. So let's go to render. And again, I'll pause the stream, and well, not the stream, the video, and we'll get back to it when we're done the rendering. So we come back and my Fusion froze, so I just reset it. When it's rendering, you don't have to have the app open, which is convenient. Now let's click this. This is going to look nice. Nice. Anyway, over here, we'll load this up. We'll get some... Wow, it's so bright. Maybe too bright. We can fix that, right? But it's clearly shining through. This is technically a lamp, right? Produces light. Probably this level, we're talking about maybe 13 out of 15, right? Talking about a B at this level, right? Because it does look like it's going to burn the retinas out of anybody who arrives to it, like they're opening the Ark of the Covenant or something like that. But if we tone down those light values, which I'll show you how we're going to tone them down, we're going to do 2 methods actually. One of them we're going to naturally just tone down the light, which we can do in our lamps in real life by putting a resistor into the lamp. But also, I made that whole object an LED light, which means that whole object is the same as that all being one light. But our strips are not like that, right? If you remember our strips, the LED lights are individual dots in there. So if we actually do that, we're going to reduce the overall amount of light as well. Don't update, please. Please. I reckon that's why it froze, the update thing. All right, so let's go and change that. Design. So again, we'll hide these other surfaces for now, these other bodies. So this one over here, we're going to select it and we want to change it to be, I want this thing to actually be about the size of the LED light. So I'm going to use the press and pull function. Do I want to do that? No. Actually, I changed my mind. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go and I'm going to edit the original sketch where I made it. Right click, edit sketch. Now over here I should have some dimension somewhere. So instead of 140, did anybody actually measure the size of the LED lights on our strips?
Which part of the sides?
Like the actual LED light itself.
It was 0.8.
High?
Oh. Height is 0.95.
Yeah, I imagine it's about like 3 by 3 or something like that, right? Yeah. 3.1
millimeters, about 3.1.
Nice. 3.1. I press tab. Press enter. That length is now 3.1. And this length over here, 3.1. Shh, boys at the back, too loud. If you're talking, you've got to be quieter. 3.1, so now this is the size of what that actual LED light will look like, but there's one light, so what we can do is we can use our pattern tool. Now because we already defined it with its appearance and everything, I believe the pattern should all be the right material. So we'll click the object we want to pattern, we want this object over here, that body, the axis. Let's say we want to do it in the y-axis, which is like this direction. And did anybody measure the spacing between the lights?
No, it varies.
Approximate?
Not sure which one.
Yeah, no, it does. Because like
It was minus one.
I'm going to guess about 3 centimeters.
3.
Approximate between the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll start with that. So over here we can do that. Instead of doing distribution extent, we're going to do spacing. So we do spacing, we say how far away, 30 millimeters apart. So we can do that. And the number that we want, we can go down this slide. But because this is less than 50 centimeters, we can cut it and we can put another strip next to it. So we're actually going to make it, we can have 3 strips of these lights, right? And again, off center doesn't matter, you can fix the centerness of this. But to hear how your lights will actually look like, and press OK, and we can get that rendering out. But also, if you're doing the Japanese style lanterns, do we see the LED lights directly in those lanterns? No. So what's in the way? Something, right? Like a thin sheet of paper, which helps us diffuse the light. So we can actually make that on Fusion 360. What we're going to do is we're going to show all the bodies. We are going to sketch, and we're going to sketch using this plane over here. We want to use, we're going to sketch using this. We are going to make a offset. No, sorry, we're going to make a rectangle first. I think we might need to, before we do that, we might need to go to create, project and include. We want to project this. We want to project to use this. Okay. So then we can make a rectangle from this square to this square, and then we're going to make another, we're going to offset that shape we just made, and we'll make this 0.5 millimeters thick, right? And before we finish it, these last ones are cutting over here. We don't actually want these, we don't want the material to be on this face, because this is where we're going to be putting our lights. So we're going to get the line, and we're going to cut into there, and we're going to get this line. So now when we extrude, we're going to extrude it through all the other 3, but not the side that has the LEDs. So we finish this, we go to extrude. If we click here, and if I zoom out, see how it's all 3, it's going through all 3 sides, but not here at the bottom. For this one, I'm going to, we are going to drag it all the way to the top. And we are also going to make it a new body so it doesn't interact with anything else. So this is, if we imagine I was going to get a sheet of like baking paper or tissue paper, it's going to cover those 3 sides like that. And I'll press OK. Now, this material obviously is not, this by default the material is steel. We don't want that. So we're going to right click, appearance. Now, I forgot exactly which material it is. Probably opaque might be the right material. Glass. Oh, let's look at glass. Textured. Ooh. We can make frosted glass might be a good example. Or we'll go to these base materials and we want it to be an opaque. We'll actually put opaque material. So what we're actually doing for here, we're going to first add the opaque material up here into this design. I think we've got to download it first. Yep. Downloaded it, should be able to drag it up here now. Should be able to. Come on. Let me. It's going slow, so I'm going to pause it and I'll unfreeze it once I've dragged it over. All right, so instead of that, I went to miscellaneous materials and found ground paper white. So I can just drag that over. But before I do that, I want to right click this and I want to duplicate it because I'm going to edit this. I'm going to right click, edit. You can actually change things over here. If you press advanced, you can change all the properties of it. You can change the PNG, whatever that image is. But what I want to change is not the reflectiveness. I want to change the translucency. I want to what the value of 0 will result in no translucency. Well, I don't want that. So if I apply this paper now to this body should be made out of paper. Oh, yep. Does it have lines on it? Hopefully not. Now, if we go to render, and this one, I'm going to change the angle. I'm going to change the angle to like this view over here. And we'll render this. Just going to do the smallest render possible. And I'll resume when we're back. Okay, so the render is finished now, after class. If we see here, so this is the original image we had here with the white paper. If we load up over here, the render, we'll see that the LED lights shining inside the lamp did actually penetrate the, it did actually penetrate the paper, and it did shine a brighter color, and it does look more like the lamps that we were seeing in our first lesson. Other options we can do for rendering, which we'll get to in another lesson, is you can actually set up the scene. You can put your lamp on top of a table. You could also experiment with changing different colors of paper you use. And in your report, you should do different rendering. So you should like change the orientation of your rendering and do it in different, to show the image in all different directions. And it's just the same thing. You just change the direction and you go to render. All right, thank you.